Okay.
Good morning. This is Paul,
And what?
and this is Father Son 49ers Talk. Good morning, Wyatt. How are you doing?
Good. How about you?
Doing well. You know, it's an early morning. It's what is it? 4:59 a.m. in the morning.
Yeah.
Yeah, you look like you're having a good morning.
Yeah, I couldn't sleep last night. It was there something.
Oh man, that stinks.
Yeah.
Yeah, no. Well, we'll talk about that a little bit afterwards and kind of catch up on that. See how everything's going. But yeah, so this last weekend we obviously had a win, right?
Yeah, we had a win. I don't know if it feels like a win, but
Yeah, we talked about that when the game ended. It's like, man, we won the game, but it just didn't feel like a win. It was kind of the exact opposite of last week. Last week, and it was like that across the entire 49ers faithful. The week before against the Lions, or not the Lions, sorry, the Vikings, we didn't win, but everybody was optimistic because we stayed in the game. But after the win with the Lions, everybody kind of acted like we lost the game. And you even heard the players go out and say that, we won the game, but it felt like a loss.
yeah.
Yeah, so you can go through and sorry, we need to focus. Let's see. You need to try and give me more than one word answers sometimes. It's your opportunity to go through and elaborate. Just FYI. So I know you're tired. You're like, yeah. You need to start drinking coffee.
Got to bed at like 11:30 last night.
Oh man. See, coffee.
Yeah, right?
Yeah.
Start drinking coffee. Or just start chugging a body armor in the morning.
A body armor.
Body armor is amazing. It's like Gatorade, but better.
I'll have to check it out. Um, yeah. So, with the 49ers faithful, it felt like it was a loss more than a win. And the players even said that as well. But when you actually look at it, I mean, what you have with the young teams is that a lot of times young teams play to their talent level. And that at this point, we're only 2 games in. So it's hard to say. But the way I'm going to take it is we played to our talent level. And it was really only in the fourth quarter that you could say that kind of happened. And we'll get into the 49ers, the breakdown of the game here in just a little bit. I kind of wanted to start it off with some good news. And the first piece of good news is that we won the game, right?
Yeah. We're 1-1 instead of 0-2.
Yeah, 1-1 and 0-2. And this time last year, we lost the game to the Seahawks, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So
Yeah.
we already got that one win in. We don't have to worry about being the Browns and an 0-16. And that's always a good day, right?
Yes.
So the other piece of good news for the 49ers doesn't directly relate to the 49ers right now, but it relates to a old 49er. Not a I mean, he's kind of old, right? He's about my age. But an old 49er, one of my favorites. He's actually my favorite NFL player at this time. My 2 favorite NFL players are Frank Gore, and I'm a little bit of an Alex Smith truther. I really like Alex Smith, and I understand moving on from Alex Smith and doing that kind of stuff, but I think that probably was the right move at the time. But Frank Gore and Alex Smith, they were part of the 49ers, when I was in my young early 20s and going up into my late 20s, and they just kind of were that part of that foundational team that we've had over the last decade that I just grew to love. And Frank Gore, of course, became the 4th leading rusher last year. Now, not last year, but last weekend. And the only 3 players, Wyatt, that have more yards than Frank Gore that ever played in the NFL as a running back are Emmitt Smith with 18,355 yards. He's number 1. Number 2 is Walter Payton with 16,726 yards. And then Barry Sanders with 15,269 yards. After that, it is then Frank Gore with 14,112 yards.
That's crazy. It's crazy to think about because, I mean, when you think of top-notch guys, you think of Emmitt Smith and Barry Sanders. When you think of top-notch guys, you don't really go thinking about Frank Gore.
Well, and that's just the thing. I mean, people have been talking about Frank Gore. Niners have been talking about Frank Gore since before he left as a potential Hall of Fame player. And a lot of people don't agree with that. And the reason why they don't agree with that is because Frank Gore just was never the number one leading rusher in the NFL. He was never that. He didn't have a Todd Gurley year where everybody's like, he's the best runner in the NFL. And that's just so because of that, people are like, well, he's not a Hall of Fame player because you want elite talent, not the Hall of Very Good. It's the Hall of Fame, not the Hall of Very Good. I don't know. What do you think about that, Wyatt? Do you think Frank Gore is a Hall of Fame player?
I think it's really hard not to put someone in the Hall of Fame who has the stats that Frank Gore has and had the career Frank Gore had and still having.
Yeah, I mean, he's been around forever. He's the 49ers leading rusher. So he has the record for the most yards for the 49ers as a running back. And then he's the fourth leading rusher in NFL history. Again, that's hard. That's kind of hard to kind of pass over. The fourth leading rusher in NFL history. And
who says he doesn't go get Barry Sanders?
Man, could you imagine that?
Who's to say he doesn't though?
Yeah, I mean, if he plays 2 more years and he has decent years, I mean, he potentially could do that. I mean, you're looking at he is about 1,150 yards, a little over that, 1,150 yards behind Barry Sanders right now. And that's not a lot. I mean, that's a lot for one season. But if he plays the rest of this season and next season, he could easily surpass Barry Sanders.
Easily.
Yeah.
I'd almost be surprised if he didn't, to be honest.
Well, I mean, he
played 2 seasons and didn't end up getting that stat line.
Yeah, you've been hearing Frank Gore this is his last year for like the last, I don't know, 8 years, it feels like.
Right.
He just keeps on playing.
This is my last year. Oh, well, never mind. I think
he's never said it was his last year. Everybody else has been saying it.
Oh, that's crazy. Frank Gore's like, no.
So my last thing to say about Frank Gore, and then we'll move on, is that when you talk about players, a lot of times you hear availability is the greatest talent. And Frank Gore, he's just available. He's always there. He's always rushing. When he's with the Niners, I think he only had 2 years where he wasn't a 1,000-yard rusher, and he was on some really, really bad 49ers teams. One of those years he had an injury. And he's an awesome player. He's a great guy and just loves football. And again, he's one of my favorite players. I'm wearing my Frank Gore jersey today, and I really enjoyed seeing that. He's one of the non-49ers anymore, or the ex-49ers that I always follow. Always follow him. I always follow him and Alex Smith. Those are the 2 players I always follow. I would say I always follow Navarro Bowman, but he kind of left under different circumstances, so I don't really follow him as much, but I still love Navarro Bowman too.
Yeah.
Okay, going on to other news. Of course, there was the Josh Gordon stuff this week, right?
Yeah.
What is your take on the Josh Gordon thing? What did you want to see happen?
Well, I think, of course, like a lot of people I wanted to see Josh Gordon on the Niners as a depth / possibly a starter after a little while. I mean, I'm not for sure if maybe going out and giving our 4th round's a little bit stretched for it, maybe.
Well, hold on. So you got to put that in context, right? Why? Because the 4th round, I guess that makes sense, right? But yeah. So go ahead and talk about that. So how did that all work out with the Patriots and the picks and what they offered with the 5th?
So we were willing to give our 6th round, but the Patriots didn't have a 6th round, so they offered their 5th round, we didn't have a fifth round. We weren't willing to stretch for our fourth round, which I agree to, but I don't. It's one of those things. I don't know what's going to happen there. I would have been okay if we did, but the fact that we didn't, I'm okay with that as well.
Yeah, and so obviously that's speculation. I didn't read in an article anywhere where it said the Niners specifically said we weren't willing to give a fourth round. And of course, I mean, it's pretty easy to see. You can look in the Patriots, the Browns were offering Gordon, and the initial starting bid was a sixth round. That's what they wanted. But the Patriots didn't have a sixth round pick, so then they went with a fifth round. Well, now you're in the fifth round, and the Niners probably are going to have a higher fifth round pick than the Patriots. So if they were willing to go and outbid the Patriots, their fifth round, just a fifth and fifth, probably would have outbid them because they had a higher fifth round pick. Because we're probably not going to make it. We probably aren't going to make it to the playoffs. I mean, the chances are we're not going to make the playoffs. There's a small chance we might, maybe, but chances are that we won't. And the Patriots are. They're going to the playoffs, right? So we're going to have a higher pick. But we don't have a fifth round pick. So in order to beat the Patriots, we have to offer a fourth round pick, right? And to put that in context, I think Navarro Bowman was a fourth round pick.
Yeah, like what was Dante Pettis?
He was a second round pick.
Yeah. Okay, so I was.
Yeah, not quite equivalent there, but we found some really good talent in the fourth round going through, and the fourth round is that we have kind of picked up a lot of our players in the fourth, fifth, and sixth rounds, and even seventh rounds. I mean, so you're looking and okay, yeah, for a guy, Josh Gordon, who's had a lot of problems, he's played with the Browns for 2 years, and he only has about 6 years. He's been on the team for 6 years, but he only has about 2 years worth of games that he's even been on the field for.
Mm-hmm.
So you're taking a guy that's questionable, maybe whether or not he's even going to be on the field. Tom Brady questioned his love for the game, which I think is probably valid. I mean, he's a super talented guy, but I have heard other people that have been part of the organizations that he's worked for that said, hey, Josh Gordon's a super talented guy, but he just doesn't have that love for the game that you get with guys like Frank Gore that just give everything to the game. So
yeah, he's willing to go out and play, but it's more of a paycheck deal than him wanting to be out there and loving the game.
Maybe. I mean, this is all speculation. We don't know Josh Gordon. We don't know anything like that, and so, but this is speculation, and that might be that's the risk that you take, though. That's the risk you take with a player like Josh Gordon, and for a fourth round pick, that's a pretty high pick to give up, right? A fifth or sixth round, okay. Because there's a lot of players that in that fifth and sixth round, even fourth round, that just don't pan out. If you look at the draft picks that have happened, and they're not even in the league anymore. So taking a shot on a guy that has the talent to be in the league, but has other demons that are preventing him from getting on the field, maybe you can help with those demons and get him on the field. So then in other news, so just to recap and kind of finalize that, I think that the 49ers, it would have been awesome to have got Josh Gordon. Obviously, having another talented wide receiver on the field, one that has been proven. Now, of course, I think the year that he was the leading receiver in the NFL was 2013. Put that into context, 2013, right? I mean, so his
2018.
Yeah. So you're sitting there and you're looking and you're like, man, that was 5 years ago. 5 years ago, this guy has been trying to live up to his potential, and he just hasn't yet. But while it would have been nice to have him on the team, he just, it didn't happen. We moved on. You know what? Today, we're not any better or any worse than we were at this time last week.
Yeah.
Yep. And we won a game last week, so hopefully we can keep that going, right?
Yeah. Hopefully the game looks a little bit different, especially with the DBAs, which we'll get into a little bit later. But
yep. Yeah. So to get into other news, we have Marquise Goodwin, of course. He was injured and wasn't able to play last week. He was out. And he has the quad bruise. So that's this time last week he was limited in practice, and today, or not today, but yesterday he was limited in practice as well. So today and Friday, so Thursday and Friday, we're gonna have to go through and we'll see what happens. I'm optimistic that he's gonna play. It really does feel like we need him on the team.
I agree. I 100% agree.
So hopefully he makes it. And I heard this morning, I haven't actually seen the press release that he did with him, with the press, but I heard that he was asked who is faster, him or Tyreek Hill. And who do you think is faster, Wyatt?
I think Tyreek Hill, but the guy is like Flash. I was watching a play of Tyreek Hill's. I saw him burn a zone coverage corner and then burn the safety. Like, who can do that?
Yeah, who can do that?
Who can burn a zone coverage corner and then burn the safety and just let Patrick Mahomes throw it to him?
Well, so you want to hear how Marquise Goodwin answered that?
What?
Marquise Goodwin, all he did is he showed the tattoo on his arm of the Olympic rings. So he held up his Olympic rings and then he said, "I'll let you interpret that."
Yes, I think he showed what he thinks. I think he thinks he's faster.
So let's put this into context. In the fastest 40 times in NFL history, who do you think is ahead? Who do you think is faster? Tyreek Hill or Marquise Goodwin? Man, I'm just asking in general, just to see what you think.
I might have to go with Hill on this. I don't know. I think this might be Goodwin, but
Yeah, you'd be right with Goodwin.
yeah.
Goodwin has the third fastest 40 time in NFL history.
Behind. Number 2 is
number 1 is Chris Johnson. He ran a 4.24. Then you have Archer ran a 4.26, and Tyreek Hill ran a 4.27 in 2013. And to put it into context, Tyreek Hill, he is the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16th with a 4.3.
I see.
Yeah, 4.3. 0.3 of a second is a lot of time in the 40. That's a lot.
Really, it is. Especially in the NFL. It makes a big difference.
Yeah, and it's hard to believe. When you see Tyreek Hill, he just looks so fast, and he is fast. His game time film is really fast. But that is going to be interesting. That's going to be one of the storylines that I'm going to look at is who's faster, Marquise Goodwin or Tyreek Hill. I mean, right there you look, and Marquise Goodwin had the faster 40 time. Oh, and he's an Olympic athlete. Like, not just Olympic speed. You hear that a lot. Oh, this guy has Olympic speed. Marquise Goodwin is an Olympic athlete.
He ran in the Olympics for his speed.
Yeah. So I thought that was pretty cool. That was a fun answer. Yeah. So then
I'll let you interpret that.
Yeah, I'll let you interpret that. That was pretty good. But then the next piece of news isn't quite as good, of course. So for injuries, we did pretty well last week in injuries, but we did have one kind of significant injury, one significant injury, which is Tart.
Yeah.
Tart got hurt, and it was that shoulder injury that he was nursing earlier in the week. He was limited in practice due to a shoulder injury. And I mean, I haven't heard a lot of news on it yet, but I mean, he was out yesterday and wasn't practicing. And it's a little troubling. He has a prolonged shoulder injury at this point. It's been kind of plaguing him. And hopefully he stays healthy because we really need him in the backfield.
Yeah, we definitely do.
Okay, so I think that we're going to move into the game now against the Lions. And we've already kind of talked about this, which is that, man, it was a win, but it just kind of felt like a loss. But that's really due to the fourth quarter. And Matthew Stafford is kind of known for coming back and winning games, which is
Yeah.
a really interesting statistic. He has, I think it was something like 36 games in his NFL career that he's come back from behind with a game-winning drive at the end. And last year he had 8.
8.
Yes. So
Wow.
this is kind of something that the Lions do. They come back in the end from behind and win games. Matthew Stafford is just really good at that. That seems to be one of his skills as a quarterback. Now, of course, you put yourself in the situation when you're coming back. When you're coming back 8 games to win the game, 8, last drive wins, that is indicative of your team in general to allow yourself to get behind that often. Obviously, you have the talent to win games, but you're allowing yourself to kind of be in that position where you have to do that.
Yeah, 100%. The fact that if they have the ability to come back in the fourth quarter, they could do that the entire game. That'd be something.
Yeah, and I think that when you watch the game, it felt like the 49ers had the more talented team as you watched the game for the majority of the game. If you just watch the first, second, and third quarter, you're like, well, the Niners, while we may not be that much better than the Lions, I think it was pretty clear that we were the Lions, and it stayed pretty close to what we talked about in the last episode. We talked about the Lions, and I think maybe we underestimated just a little bit, but what we said is what came true, is that what we really need to worry about on the Lions defense is their DBs.
Yeah.
And yeah, absolutely. And their wide receivers.
Yeah, it's the two big part of the Lions, and it's the two things that kind of shined out and made a statement.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's like you said, the wide receivers on offense are what you're really concerned about, and obviously Stafford. So the wide receivers in Stafford, because you have a veteran QB with some talented wide receivers. And that came through in the fourth quarter. We were having a hard time stopping them. And then what we were worried about on their defense was their DBs. They have a very talented backfield, with their corners and their safeties. And it was pretty clear. I mean, Jimmy Garoppolo had 6 sacks. And of those 6 sacks, the last sack, I kind of tossed that one out just a little bit because Kyle Shanahan told Garoppolo, hey, if the guy's not open, it's right at the end of the game. If the guy isn't open, just take the sack. So that's what happened. And so that one really wasn't on Jimmy Garoppolo. But the other ones, the other 5, a lot of people said, I've heard some people say that the offensive line didn't play well. That is not true. I mean,
no, the offensive ball, all in all, I think they played well. I'm not going to say like super well, but they played solidly.
They played pretty good. I mean, we had an awesome stat line for running. I mean, what was it? Right now, do you know who the number 1 rusher in the NFL is? So who do you think the leading rushers in the NFL are? If you were to just take a guess.
If it was going to be a normal day, I'd probably say Gurley, then maybe Elliott, because he's going to get a lot of touches over there in Dallas because the wide receiver core is not great. And probably going to say maybe David Johnson, even though he's more of a power back, maybe.
Well, you're kind of going off of, obviously, David Johnson hasn't actually done anything this year because, well, the Cardinals may be the worst team in the NFL.
If you're going off names, that's what you would think of.
Okay, names. And so who do you think is the leading rusher this year altogether? Just pick one name. Who do you think is the leading rusher?
I don't have a clue.
Okay. These are the top. I'll start off with number 5. So the 5th leading rusher right now is James Conner from Pittsburgh.
Yeah, he was in my guesses. I just didn't know where to put him.
Yeah. The 4th leading rusher, Lamar Miller from Houston.
I didn't see that coming. Where's Kamara at? Kamara's got to be up there, isn't he?
Okay, the third leading rusher, Philip Lindsay from Denver, an undrafted rookie.
Yeah. What
Okay.
the heck?
The second leading rusher, Joe Mixon with 179 yards.
Okay.
And the number one leading rusher right now is Matt Breida. In the NFL.
Matt Breida being the number one, not even listed as a starter. It's funny.
Yeah.
There's two guys that aren't starters in that list.
Well, Matt Breida's our starter.
Well, he going into preseason he wasn't.
Yeah, going in preseason he wasn't. Let's see. Todd Gurley is number 6. Ezekiel Elliott is number 7.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah. And that is just crazy, though, when you think about it, right?
Yeah, it's funny because the number 5 and the number 1 are both guys that you don't, when you think of that team, you don't think of them as a starter.
Well, any of them. Lamar Miller and Joe Mixon are the only two that were who you think of as starters. Philip Lindsay, he wasn't supposed to be the starter there.
No, because they have Royce Freeman, don't they?
Yeah, Royce Freeman was the rookie, the early round rookie draft pick for Denver to be the leading rusher. Philip Lindsay was an undrafted rookie this year.
Wow.
Yeah, he was an undrafted rookie, which kind of makes my heart hurt that we didn't get him. Oh. But anyways, it's a whole nother deal. But what that means is our offensive line, they really played well. I mean, their run defense, their run blocking was really good. And I would even say their pass blocking was really good too, which sounds really weird when you look at just a stat line, six sacks, you're like, man, that offensive line must have been struggling. But when you watch those plays, Jimmy Garoppolo he had a lot of time, and at least 3, probably 4 of those sacks had almost nothing to do with blocking. It had everything to
all
go ahead.
Down coverage with your corners, safeties. The coverage was just outstanding.
It really was.
No one was there, and he wasn't going to try to put it in a window and get picked, which I need to work on.
Yeah, the coverage, our wide receivers just were not getting open at all. They weren't getting open, and Jimmy Garoppolo was holding the ball, and he just was taking sacks.
Yeah, instead of trying to squeeze something in and getting it picked off, you just take the sack.
Or trying to throw the ball away. I mean, he could have tried to do that too. And that's something that, maybe hopefully we'll learn in the future, which is how to kind of get that ball out there and push it and maybe get rid of the ball a little bit earlier, trying not to take those sacks. Because, I mean, when you look at that, our first drive as you go through, it looked really, really good. So, I mean, it started off with a boom, with a huge run, a nice long run by Matt Breida. He came out, and then we followed it up with a 1-yard run by Morris, which was okay. Then we had the scramble by Jimmy Garoppolo, and who threw for a touchdown. You go through, and then you had a nice long strike to Pettis, which was like a post corner route, and you're like, oh man, Pettis is gonna hit it off this game, and that's just you saw it coming together. You're like, oh man, and then it was a throw to Juszczyk. But there was you had to throw to Juszczyk, and then we were in the red zone, or right near the red zone, and it was, we were within maybe 20 yards, and then Jimmy Garoppolo took a sack. And then that was the 6th play of the drive. And then on the 7th play of the drive, Garoppolo took another sack. And now you're looking at it, it's 3rd and goal. We started off as 3rd and goal on the 27-yard line. And then we ended up with this long...
3rd and 10 on the 27.
Yeah, 3rd and 10. And then we ended up with this long field goal. Well, let me make sure I'm not confused on this.
No, you have. I know you have to drive.
Yeah. Yeah, we took 2 straight sacks, and then all of a sudden we were out of range, and we had to go for a field goal, which was just unfortunate, and it
Yeah,
was really frustrating.
I remember
Oh,
watching
wait.
that game.
Yeah. Yeah, that was on the 4th drive there. Tinning, go through, pitch for Burrito. Yeah, anyway, so you took 2 straight sacks and in that first drive, and then it just kind of killed that drive. You know, you taking the 2 straight sacks, and then you have to move on. But it just didn't feel good watching those 2 sacks right there in a row. So our offensive line, I think they played pretty well. I think they played pretty well in general.
Yeah, I think they
And
played solid.
yeah, they definitely did. You know, and I think Jimmy Garoppolo played a pretty good game too. His stat line isn't super impressive. He was 18 for 26, which is 69.23% completion percentage, which you're going to take that all day, every day.
Yeah,
You're
I'll
going to take that all day.
Yeah.
And for 206 yards is what he had. And I thought that he did pretty good. He did miss Kittle on that slant again.
Yeah, right. That'd have been.
Which is a little disappointing. But there's going to be some growing pains, and I think that's what we're going through. I think with the 49ers, what we're going to experience this year is we're going to have highs and we're going to have lows. I think we're going to play to the talent sometimes of the team that we're going up against, and where it's going to be kind of a Dr. Jekyll, Mr. Hyde season where we come out in some games we're playing really good, in other games we just seem to struggle. And I think that's probably to be expected. I mean, I know that they talked about with Matt Ryan, it took Shanahan 2 years to mesh with Matt Ryan. And I think that it's just as 49er faithful in general, we kind of hope that Jimmy Garoppolo wouldn't have that year with Kyle Shanahan that Matt Ryan did, because he had the 5 games before. But Shanahan has a complicated offense, and I think that we're going to have to see some of that, and we're going to have to experience, and we need to prepare ourselves for it.
Yeah.
And realize that if we have an 8-8 season, that's a successful season. I mean, we talked about it before earlier in the podcast and throughout the preseason. I think that we're an 8-8 team that has the potential, plus or minus 2 games, depending on how you play. I mean, I could see us winning 10 games, but not because we're a 10-game winning, a 10-game team, I guess is how you would say that. But because I think we're an 8-win team, that anytime you're playing a game, sometimes you edge out games at the end that maybe you shouldn't have won. So you can give or take a game or two, and if we end up 9-7 or with 10 wins, that's because we overperformed, I think, our potential.
Yeah,
by edging out those games.
Yeah. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And I mean, the Lions is a perfect example, right? We didn't win that game, but what if we did win that game? Right?
Yeah,
if we would have won that game,
if we would have played the way we should have, the Vikings would have been not an easy win, but it would have been a win.
But that's the point, is that's a game that you pencil in a loss. Is an 8-8 team, you pencil that in as a loss, and if we would have stole that game, now we're in a 9-win team, right?
Yeah.
So that's kind of where I was getting at with that. So, but with Garoppolo, obviously the big play, the big narrative is he's not quite as accurate. He's not quite as accurate as you think he is. Oh, did you see that interception? Oh man, what's going on in 49er land? Is Jimmy Garoppolo, maybe he's not the player you thought he was. Have you heard that yet?
Yeah, I've heard that.
Yeah. Have your friends told you that?
Well, one of mine just, I don't know. I have one friend that likes every team that's doing good, and he keeps giving me crap about it, and it's like, okay, I get it.
Well,
you don't even have much of a team. You're just with the team that's winning. He was an Eagles fan last year, and then he was a Patriots fan the year before.
Was he the guy who was the Raiders fan that one year?
Yeah, he was a Raiders fan one year as well.
Mm-hmm. Well, With that pick six, while that was definitely on Jimmy Garoppolo as far as he needs to be able to see what's happening. Again, remember the last game where we had the pick six?
Yeah.
Yeah. So with that interception, with the pick six that we had last week, not last week, but the week before with the Vikings, that was a miscommunication between the wide receiver and Jimmy Garoppolo, where the wide receiver didn't hear the audible and he ran the wrong route. Well, this week, who they threw to was Matt Breida, by the way. That was Matt Breida. And Matt Breida ran the wrong route on that interception.
Man.
But Jimmy Garoppolo has to kind of see that. I mean, you hope that he sees that and makes an adjustment. But what you're seeing, again, is a young team that's learning how to mesh together. They're building that chemistry that they're learning the offense. It's not just Jimmy Garoppolo learning the offense. It's the other players. I know Matt Breida was here all last year, but everybody's still learning and still kind of coming together as a team. A good team that's a playoff-bound team, the running back understands that route and runs the right route.
Yeah.
But he didn't, and so now you're looking at a situation where it's an interception because the running back runs the wrong route and the quarterback doesn't recognize it, and now you get an interception. Where if they're both on the same page, that's probably a completion and a first down and the game's over.
Yeah. You're right. Like I know where Jimmy G's coming from there. So I had that happen to me. I think it was last game actually. He was supposed to be running a hitch route.
Mm-hmm.
He wasn't paying attention in the huddle. He was supposed to have a hitch route, and he ran a button.
Okay.
And it ended up because I once he planted his foot, I put heat on it and threw it to where he was supposed to turn and be, but he ran a button, so the corner just took it like it was his ball. It was like, come on, that's an easy 8 yards.
Right.
Turn the right way, and that's a completion. He was 5 yards back. And he ran a button. Come on.
Yeah, that's what happened. So then
after that, I pulled all of my receivers over and running backs, and I showed them how I want them to run a hitch. I showed them how I want them to run a slant, and had them show me how they run it. And it was like, okay, now I understand.
So did you hear that on the broadcast? They talked about that, how they saw Jimmy Garoppolo during practice, not just out telling the wide receivers what routes he wants them to run, but actually showing the wide receivers how to run the routes.
Yeah, running the routes. Yeah, I remember that.
They talked about with Dante Pettis.
Yeah.
Hey, this is how I want you to run the route. And then he has the wide receivers sit where he's at so that they can see what he's seeing as they're running the routes.
Yeah, it's a good idea.
Yeah, so I guess he's been doing that since high school, at least college. I think they said high school too. But yeah, I mean that's what's going on with this team. Again, Dr. Jekyll, Mr. Hyde. If they're on the same page, you get the catch, and it's the end of the game, and we're like, yep, there we go. But they didn't, and now we're like, oh man, what's going on with Jimmy Garoppolo? But anyway, so let's talk about just some of this game real quick. We got to kind of get off real quick. It's 5:37. You have to wake your brothers up here in a second, and I got to get heading to work. So right here, we talked about the first drive a little bit, going through. Obviously, we settled for a field goal with that one. The second drive, we're going so Breida in the run game or in the passing game. So short pass to Breida. He had a couple passes this game, which was good to see. We had Juszczyk, and then I have right here run with Morris with a nice gain, but holding with Mike Persons, right? Yeah. And that took us from 1-10 to 1-20. And I noted that. I was like, man, is this going to kill the drive? But then we had a 10-yard pass to Kittle. So we had the pass interference by the Lions, which gave us a first down. That's what it was. Okay, yeah. Which was good. Oh, no, that was before that. Sorry. The pass interference of the Lions gave us the first down. Then we had the holding, and we were at 1-20. And then we had a pass to Kittle on second down. which got us to 3rd and 3. And then we had a little pitch to Breida, which didn't end up killing the drive, which was good.
Yeah.
And we ended up getting a touchdown past the Kendrick Bourne on that drive, which was really good. So then the third drive, we have the holding during the kick return. Again, man, penalties just are killing us. Sometimes this penalties, it was really frustrating to see that kind of stuff. You see penalties and mistakes, and it wasn't quite as prevalent this game, but man, you know, penalties and blocks to the backs, it's just, you can't do that kind of stuff. And that was a pretty short drive. We had to punt that. And then with the fourth drive, you know, we're sitting there and we had the 42-yard field goal. So that was what we had there. So we had the 42-yard field goal with the fifth drive. The fifth drive was at the end of the second half, and we got it with just under 2 minutes. And I wrote, as we're watching this, a 2-minute drill test. So let's see what they do. Good teams go and score points on this, right?
Yeah.
And then, you know, we had on 1st and 10, the first play, we had an incomplete pass to Taylor. And then the second, we were 2nd and 10. We took that fourth sack, which was just frustrating. And then 3rd and 10 was a throwaway in the end zone, which, you know, we're not really happy about, but I mean, that's what happens, right? And we had to punt it. So it just wasn't a successful 2-minute drill. I mean, we just from the incomplete pass to the sack to wide receivers not getting open, so he just threw it away in the back of the end zone. Then, so instead of the 49ers getting a touchdown, they went 3 and out, which was just frustrating. And then actually, you go through and it's just one of those things.
Yeah.
So then we go into the second half, and that first drive, we had the touchdown pass to Selleck, which is awesome. So it's awesome that we got the touchdown pass.
That was the play that Garoppolo overthrew to Kittle early on.
Yeah, he keeps on overthrowing to Kittle.
And they talked about that play, and they called it after that play. They're like, that worked. I bet you we see that again. The announcers did. Mm-hmm. And then, believe it or not, we saw the same play just on the other side. Selleck.
We need to tell Jimmy Garoppolo that nobody's starting Selleck in their fantasy football leagues, and he needs to complete it to Kittle instead of Selleck.
Right?
Yeah.
And then, Kittle break like 3 tackles and go for a touchdown.
Yeah. Nobody's starting Selleck. Throw it to Kittle.
Yeah.
When
Who cares if we win the game or not? I care if Kittle has 300 yards and 2 touchdowns.
We still want the touchdown. We just want it to be to Kittle when he's open. He missed it to Kittle. He should have hit it Kittle instead of Selleck.
That was wasn't that on like the 40-yard line though?
No, it was a touchdown. It was down in the red zone.
It was?
Yeah, it was in the red zone. He missed it in the red zone to Kittle.
Oh, yeah, you're right.
He missed the same pass the week before to Kittle in the red zone.
Mm-hmm.
Anyways, so a little bit frustrating with that, but that's okay. So second drive, we started off obviously 1 and 10, a long pass to Garcon. Garcon had a pretty good game. He really did. He had a couple nice catches, some really good blocking. I really enjoyed watching him play. Then
I liked the effort I saw out of Garcon on the big run by Matt Breida. I like to see that Matt Breida was able to trust Garcon enough just to literally follow his back and hope that he doesn't lose that DB. Because on that big run, he probably followed Garcon for like 10 or 15 yards, just sitting there behind him until he found a hole that he could take past the corner.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and so Garcon really did have a good game. I really did enjoy that and watching him play. And with this drive here, though, so we started off with a long pass to Garcon, and then the next play, we're 1st and 10, is incomplete pass to Breida. But then we immediately go back on 2nd and 10 and pass to Breida. And I put this in my notes where I said, Jimmy Garoppolo threw that ball to Breida, but Breida kind of had to stop and kind of catch it, and then he turned around to run, and he ended up getting 9 yards. But if Jimmy Garoppolo throws that pass on target in stride, it's a first down.
Easily.
Yeah, so while it was a nice 9-yard gain, it could have been a first down immediately on second down, and we wouldn't have had to have worried about the 3rd and 1, which we got when we passed to Juszczyk. So then we followed it up with a run by Morris, which was a 4-yard run. And then we had the drop pass to Kittle. There was a pass to Kittle that was dropped, but the defender got his hands in there. So I don't know if you really count that as a drop by him. And then 3rd and 6, pass broken up by defender. We had to punt that drive.
Yeah.
The 3rd drive, pass to Selleck, first down. Breida with big run. And then we had a great run by Breida, which he had that huge breakout run, right?
Yeah.
But anyways, so then you kind of go through all of the others. Those were kind of the big notes. I really wanted to bring up the pass to Breida, which could have been the first down, but it wasn't. But what I want to say is this, is that the Lions really did catch on to our defensive backs. I mean, they kind of exposed us in the fourth quarter. And while the defense bent, they didn't break.
Yeah.
We still won the game. So we still won the game. And while there's a little bit of work that needs to be done with our DBs to make sure that Witherspoon doesn't get exposed like that again, that's kind of unfortunate. But, he's on the other side of Richard Sherman, and Richard Sherman has really shown himself. He's shown that he's effective still. He had one pass attempt at him, and it was an incomplete pass. It was that kind of contested one that they challenged.
Yeah.
But I think whoever you put on the other side of Richard Sherman is going to get tested. The other offenses are just going to test that.
They don't want to test. They don't want to test Sherman until it's proven that Witherspoon's going to shut him down.
Exactly. So whomever's on the other side, it could be Witherspoon, it could be, Ward, whoever is over there, they're going to have to prove that they can hold up to that scrutiny. Because if they don't, they're just going to keep on getting targeted, which is what happened in this game.
Yeah.
But now, we would be remiss if we did not talk about what's going to happen next week. Not as far as the game. We can have another podcast with that. But what's happening next week in the game. So who's coming back?
In the game?
Who's coming back?
Okay.
Reuben Foster.
Yeah, I was confused. I was like, wait, something bad happened. No, Reuben Foster's coming back. Okay.
Yep.
Yeah, Reuben Foster's coming back. It's big.
That's going to change our defense. That's going to change the dynamic. So we're going to have Reuben Foster, and I can't wait to have him come back. I really, really can't.
All right.
And it's going to change how we play defense, and I think that this game isn't as close if we have Reuben Foster.
Yeah, he's a big part of our defense.
He is a big part of our defense. And so Reuben Foster paired with Fred Warner, that's going to be a dynamic combo, and they're going to be able to kind of block out. Both of those linebackers are going to be able to stay on the field all drives. So all three, like 1 through 3, so all down. So 1, 2, and 3 downs as far as if it's a running play or passing play, whatever it is. And so hopefully we're going to see what our defense really is going to look like with Reuben Foster on the field with Fred Warner there in the middle.
Yeah.
Okay, Wyatt. Well, we're running out of time, and we got to get to going and get our day started. So I think we had a couple more things we wanted to talk about, but we're going to have to cut it a little short today. And but I love you, Wyatt.
Love you, Dad.
Okay. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.